Are you tired of feeling like your neurodivergent child is very capable, but maybe they're just not trying, or they just can't seem to get this thing that you've done 100,000 times with them, such as a bedtime routine? Or maybe you've heard something like this from a teacher or another parent or even a family member that your child just seems to be lazy or isn't trying hard enough because they've been taught this skill loads of times, but they're just not doing it. For a lot of children who have autism or ADHD, this might be pointing at a difference with their executive function skills. So, today I'm going to tell you about what executive function can look like for autistic children and for children with ADHD. And I'm going to give you 4 steps on what you can do to help your child build their executive function skills starting today. I'm Megan. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and helping families with this is what I do every single day, and I love to do it. So, first, let's define executive function. I kind of like to think of executive function as those skills in my brain that if I had a tiny little businesswoman in my brain and she was the executive of my brain, she would be operating these skills. So, these skills are things such as our ability to plan tasks, our ability to break down tasks that have multi parts, our ability to plan our time, which I know can be difficult for many of us. It also controls our ability to switch gears between different tasks, and it helps us to bounce back emotionally when an activity didn't really go according to plan. For years, children with autism or ADHD who had executive function skill difficulties were kind of treated like they had behavioral problems, like they just weren't trying hard enough. But the good news is we know better now. A neurodiversity affirming approach doesn't try to force a child's brain to act in a neurotypical way, but it does help us build skills around their natural strengths to help them cope with executive function differences and be able to accomplish the daily activities that are important to them. The fact that their brain hasn't developed this skill is not a character flaw. We can do things to help them develop it. So let's talk about the specific differences between ADHD and autism when it comes to executive function. For children with ADHD, executive function differences show up as difficulties with starting, stopping, and staying on task. So your child may know exactly what task needs to be done, but they really have a very difficult time starting the task. Or once they've started it, they can't stop. So you might see your child in very intense flow states with certain activities, and they may become very distressed if they have to step away from that activity. They also might have difficulty with that staying component, meaning they have a lot of distractions popping in that make them very frustrated that they can't just stay focused on one task and get that task done. In autism, it can show up especially as difficulties with transitions and emotional regulation for moments when flexibility is required. So, a sudden change in plan can genuinely feel like a moment of crisis. And that's because the executive component of being able to regulate our emotions and transition between activities may be disrupted for an autistic child. So it's not that the autistic child is being stubborn, it's that they don't have the emotional regulation to deal with a task when the task is not clearly structured and broken down into its separate pieces. So the task can feel very, very overwhelming. So, what's our takeaway? Our takeaway is that for both autistic children and children with ADHD, or both, this is not a character flaw. This is a skill gap. Their brains haven't developed this skill, but the good news is we have so many strategies that can help them develop this skill. Kids want to do well. They do well when they can, when they have the tools they need to do well. So we can give them those tools. Here are my 4 strategies that you can try immediately and see if they might help your child. Here's what you can try at home if your child is struggling with their executive function skills, meaning Tasks are very difficult. Emotional regulation is a big challenge. Meltdowns can come from transitions and more. First, I want you to break down tasks. So if you tell your child it's time to clean up the toy room, go clean up the toy room. That can be a very overwhelming project. Now, instead of giving them a project, give them a task, such as go sort the action figures into that box. So, breaking down that task can help their brain transition into that activity and go in with a clear plan and a sense of confidence. And it will also give them a sense of relief when they have done a good job executing that plan. Second strategy you can try is to make time visible for your child. Executive function difficulties can make time feel invisible, and it can make it very difficult to pace tasks and to understand how long a task might take. So if you can use a timer so that your child can see the countdown occurring, that can really help, as well as a timed picture schedule, such as if you have a schedule, you expect your child to do a 20-minute task, and every 5 minutes, you put a star on the schedule to indicate that 5 minutes has lapsed, and they can expect about another 3 increments of 5 minutes. That can be a good tool for children who don't yet know how to read a clock or don't respond very well to timers. The third strategy you can try with your child is to provide them with a transition warning and a bridge attached to that transition warning. Many parents are very good about providing transition warnings, and I'm guessing if you're the parent of a neurodivergent child, you're already probably pretty good at giving transition warnings. But if transitions can still be difficult, try adding a bridge to the transition warning. So an example of a transition is in 2 minutes, we are going to stop this game and carry the cups to the sink. So that's the warning. Now, the bridge we added was a physical task that helps them physically transition out of the activity. So a bridge is a physical task that helps them transition away from an activity, and it can be very helpful for a brain that struggles with executive function to help move on from the previous activity. The fourth strategy you can do is externalize the plan. So if you provide your child with a cue, such as, I need you to clean your bedroom, you can also help them with creating a checklist that feels manageable for them, provide photos of certain tasks that need to be done in order to clean a room, or you can provide sticky notes where you write things down. It just depends on the age of your child and what they're most comfortable with. Now, the point is to get it out of the head and onto the wall or onto a surface where they can refer to it, because again, that task breakdown can be very difficult. An evidence-based method that has been shown to be very effective for children with autism and autistic adults in helping them with planning a task, breaking down the task for themselves, and checking whether they accomplished their task. That's called the co-op method, and it's something that an occupational therapist can help parents tackle and teach their child. And the co-op method is really great because it provides your child not only with the ability to break down a task, but it provides them with a sense of autonomy and knowing what to do if their plan fails. So it gives them that confidence to problem solve and try again. And I really love that. So as a parent, how do you know it's time to bring in support for your child who's having executive functioning difficulties? Things to look for is if their difficulties are showing up daily or happen to be causing meltdowns that seem to come out of nowhere, or if it's beginning to hurt your child's confidence if they're an older child and they're starting to recognize that they have a lot of difficulties getting some tasks done, or if your mornings and evenings have turned into a time that's kind of filled with frustration and resentment, both for you and your child, it might be worth getting a second pair of eyes on it. If your child's brain seems to fight them on everyday tasks and something's got to change, I would love to talk. Empower Kids OT is a private pay, in-home occupational therapy practice that comes to you, works within your child's daily routines, and includes a component of really in depth parent coaching so that you can feel comfortable and confident helping your child build the skills they need. If you're interested in Empower Kids OT, please click the link. I'd love to talk. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to subscribe and give it a like, and share with another parent whose child might be struggling with executive function difficulties.